Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to Pivot and Thrive. I'm Karin McCarthy, founder of the Vermont Collaborative Circle, a community resource for entrepreneurs dedicated to making Vermont the place where businesses and families thrive. In the Pivot and Thrive interview series, we're showcasing business leaders who are demonstrating creativity, collaboration, and resilience with the hope that we can learn from each other so that we can accelerate the pace of success for small businesses in Vermont. Before we begin today, I'd like to recognize the Abenaki Nation, on whose traditional land we're having this discussion. We acknowledge their rich cultural history and honor them as the past, present, and future caretakers of this land. And this interview is being recorded. And so if you have any questions, you're welcome to put them in the chat and we'll have a Q&A session at the end. Without further ado, today I'm joined by Sarah Howley of Black Rose Briar. Sarah is a native Vermonter with a decade of baking experience. She uses flowers, herbs, and spices to make her baked goods a little more magical. Welcome, Sarah. I'd love you to start by telling us a little bit about yourself and your business.
Hi, so I'm a native Vermonter, like you said, a Necky grad. I've managed restaurants and bakeries for the last 10 years. Over that time, I had worked with so much flour that I no longer can anymore. So that posed a huge challenge for me. I said, okay, so I got a job where I was managing and not producing anymore. So I had less exposure to flour. And that worked for the most part and then COVID hit. Right? So that changed everything. My job had completely changed. I was laid off. And I said, maybe it's time to start the gluten-free bakery that I can move forward with my career, not feel sick all the time anymore, and really create a balance in my life. And that's where Black Rose Briar originated.
Wow. Now, was this something that you had been thinking about for a long time? Like, was it on the back burner? You dreamt about it, or how did it come to you?
Yeah, so I always did want to start a bakery. I would make jokes that I didn't because I was scared of the responsibility that came with that. But I knew that long term, my goal was to someday have a bakery, have a family, be able to manage both. It's really difficult to work in the food industry and have children and a family and just a life in general. You'll hear from a lot of chefs that that's their main focus. That's all they do. They cook for a living. They don't have a lot of spare time. So doing this is something that would give me that opportunity. I never really had the money to be able to do that. I was on unemployment for a while I was laid off because of COVID. And I saved all of that money. And I said, okay, let's do it.
Wow. Wow. Did you have mentors along the way? How did you go from it being an idea to a reality?
Yeah, so I have a mentor. She was my boss at Sugar Snap. So that's like right as I graduated culinary school. Her name is Laura Kanya. Some of you might know her if you're in the food industry, but she was always really tough on me. But she's always been a great resource for me. And when I decided that I wanted to start the business, I grabbed coffee with her and she was like, I don't know if this is the best idea. It's kind of a crazy time to be like starting a business. And she was like, but if you are dedicated and you're going to go for it, then do it. Mm-hmm. She made me bake everything that I wanted to make before and give it to her before I opened my business. She gave me her feedback. We argued about it a little bit. And then ultimately I came to a conclusion where I agreed with a lot of the things that she was saying. And honestly, the market agreed a lot with what she was saying as well. And that kind of progressed a little bit along the way. You'll see, like, I can talk about it a little bit later, but my business has already gone through a lot of significant changes in the last few months.
Yeah. Do you want to tell us about that? I mean,
Yes.
this is how many months have you been in business first?
Um, so I started in September 1st. So that's 3, 4 months.
It's still pretty fresh. That's
Yeah,
great.
very fresh. But when I started, I opened with these big, clunky cookies, all different flavors, and they were like weirdly square. And they were delicious, though, I will say. But they weren't aesthetic. They weren't something that people wanted to spend money on when they were already having financial trouble.
Mm.
So I nixed that. I took the same recipe, changed it around a little bit, same flavors, launched that. That still didn't really hit. People aren't really looking for a chocolate chip cookie necessarily right now. So I went back to the drawing board and said, okay, we're going to make a lot of changes. We're going to make it more on brand. I have a very established brand. Like, I know what my brand is. I know who my brand is. I know my business has an aesthetic that is, it's understandable.
Mm.
When you look at my website, you know that it's witchy, it's dark, it's, green and sort of flowery and all of those types of things. And my menu didn't really reflect that. So that was a big thing that I worked on, was making my menu match that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, well, I should put all the magical properties in.
Obviously.
And that, yeah, obviously. So that grew me a little bit more. It's funny because when I started, my mentor was like, you need to get rid of the fudge. The fudge doesn't make any sense for your brand. And I was like, but the people love the fudge. I did a fundraiser for Cafe Mama Juana that I sold the fudge. That was like my first experience with making all the fudge and testing all the fudge. And I raised like $1,000.
Oh.
And after that experience, people were like, where do I get more fudge? How do I get the fudge?
That's great.
So I decided that I was going to put that on the menu because people love it. But ultimately it doesn't really match my brand, and it's not really something that I want to continue with. I think it'll probably pop up on some seasonal menus. But right now it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for my business to move forward with that.
How do you get that information about from your customers or from the industry about where your brand fits and what people are wanting?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm a very like intuitive person, I guess, and which might be kind of dangerous in business, but but I noticed that, like for fudge example, it wasn't really selling. It sold sporadically, and I begun like kind of losing money on it in a way that not a significant amount of money. I mean, fudge is relatively cheap to make, but it didn't make sense for me to make a full batch of 6 boxes of fudge to get 1 box of fudge out for one customer.
That's an easy way to understand your market. That's yeah. And good for you to respond. That's smart for you to adjust it and maybe offer it seasonally.
Yeah, and looking at how my Instagram comes together and how my website comes together and aesthetically how that all plays together, I think was a big part of why I made the big changes of getting rid of like the big clunky square cookies in the beginning and going to something a little bit more finer. There's also gluten-free pastries are sort of a weird thing, right? When I think of a gluten-free pastry, I think of like a no-bake cookie peanut butter and chocolate and oats, and you get it wrapped in plastic wrap at City Market or something along those lines. But there isn't a lot of like high-end pastries when it comes to gluten-free pastry. And that was a niche that I found and hope to run with.
Absolutely. There's such a market now for specialty dietary items, and gluten-free, I think, was one of the front runners for that. So you're smart to jump on that. And to give it lift, I think you're right there. I think of a lot of the gluten-free type products that I found don't necessarily have that lightness about them that your products convey. So good for you. That's exciting. You talked about a collaboration with Cafe Mama Joanna. Will you tell us a little bit more about what you've been doing in the community, and what you're hoping, how you're hoping to have an impact in the community?
Yeah, so when COVID hit, we also had the awful death of murder of George Floyd. That was a huge thing that happened in our country. Everything changed after that point. We all, I think, finally had an opportunity to stand up for ourselves and what we believe in. And it was incredible how the entire country, well, most of the country, came together and said, we're going to fundraise, we're going to protest, we're going to do everything that we can to make change. Mm-hmm. And I played a small part in that by doing fundraising. I was still, not really working. I was kind of going into the restaurant that I had previously worked at and helped out a little bit just to kind of get it ready in hopes that the restaurant would open again soon. But I did Bakers Against Racism, and I raised a ton of money. I gained probably 200 followers. My fiance was so kind to be driving me all over hell and back to deliver pastries, so we didn't have to pay for shipping, and all of that money could just go directly to the organizations. And after that point, I realized that this community wants change, and they want to see that improvement. And the more I give, the more I receive back. So I've done tons of fundraisers. Even just in the past couple of weeks, I raised money for Turning Point. I've raised money for the Abenaki Art Association. I think that baking and food is a very positive way to connect with people, and breaking.
We can hear you.
Breaking through to people through food is a positive way to raise money, and it's something that really stays with people. So I will always have at least one fundraiser cookie on my website. Currently, that's the Ruth Bader Ginsburg cookie. $2 from every box sold is given directly to the ACLU Women's Foundation, Women's Rights Foundation. And I hope long-term that I can do more things, a little more micro community, like sports teams and those types of things as well.
Well, I think you really connected in a smart way, because I think that food has nostalgia and brings people together, and creating that sense of connection and community in a time when everybody is alone or apart, I think is smart, but also connecting it to ways that we can feel good about contributing to the community. So we might be personally enjoying the flavors, the taste, the crunch, but the benefit of knowing that our actions, our choices, the way that we vote with our dollars can support community impacts that are beyond us. I think that's so enriching, so fulfilling. And supports not only those organizations, but the people who are purchasing your goods to feel more connected to the community and feel a sense of agency that they've done something to support the community. And I hope that you feel that too, because it's really, I think, an incredible gesture to have committed yourself in these ways and to share that with the community as an example of how other small businesses can make a difference, can connect with people, can expand their audience, and also be a source of good in the community and have an impact that's beyond the transaction between a customer and client. You're really building relationships, building loyalty, and also having a really positive community impact. So good for you to start your business off in that way. I mean, that's really inspiring. I'm so glad that you're here to share that story with us. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank
Yeah. Transformation can be really unsettling for folks. Do you have suggestions for what you do to help you stay centered? What helps you stay connected to your sense of self and purpose?
So I have to say that my friends and my fiance are huge support in it's hard to trust yourself, especially when you have to make these giant decisions that you've never had to make before. I've managed restaurants and bakeries for the last 10 years, and I am making decisions that I never even knew I was going to have to make. Even though I've held like prominent positions running businesses. So I would say that my friends and family are really important. I would say that receiving messages, comments, likes, even orders, it's really special for me to receive all of those things because they keep me going, right? People are excited about what I'm doing, and that really recenters me and makes me realize that what I'm doing is making a difference, and what I'm doing has a place in Vermont, and I can't give up just because there's one small decision that I'm scared to make.
No, that's great. I think it's so true. And it's in this time when we have to connect with each other from a distance, virtually, or at least 6 feet apart, that we realize how important those connections are. And just a like or a comment or a share are just small ways that you can help people to brighten people's day, or they can help you to grow your business. So if you don't already follow Black Rose Briar, hop on there, give her a like, give a click and share, because Sarah's doing beautiful work on the web as well as in kitchens. So definitely give her a follow and help people to learn about her. Good work. So I'm thinking that you might have some obstacles that you have as a new business, and that maybe there are people in this community that can help you to overcome them. What are some things that you're working on? How can we help you as a community?
So I would say the biggest things that I struggle with are marketing. I'm going to make Marilyn and Megan laugh right now. I have so much trouble with hashtags and like knowing what hashtags I'm supposed to use and remembering to do all of the social media things to get you in the algorithm, because I just want to post and share my pictures with the people who follow me, and I'm not thinking about the bigger picture. So that's definitely a challenge for me. Financial planning is something that's difficult for me as well. I don't have a lot of money I don't have lots of resources. And because of that, the money that I receive from orders goes directly back into the business in whatever way that may be. So side note, I have some new things coming up because I have a little bit of extra money from the season. But it's difficult to manage money and know where it should be invested. I think so far I've made two notable mistakes in that regard. One was investing in a bunch of stuff when I first started out because I didn't know what I needed yet. But I think that's a forgivable mistake. And I've broken even on that already. So I'm ready to move on that issue.
That's good.
And the other one was a little shipping mix up that I told you about the other day. But there's a lot of things that shipping in itself is something different from anything I've ever done. Everything that I've done has been put it in the oven, take it out, bring it upstairs, and it's, then somebody else sells it and that's the end of it. But selling it myself and shipping and all of those types of things are definitely a challenge, especially in COVID times when you can't face-to-face talk to someone and tell them about your product. Or
Absolutely. And I don't think you're alone in that. I mean, everyone in the world is having to reinvent how they're getting things to their customers. And so that you have been brave enough to start your business in this climate, in this environment, and that you're suddenly, going from having a role in the kitchen to also being your media person, your distribution person, all of those different roles. They have a lot that go into them. So it absolutely makes sense to me. And so I'm glad that you're able to share that struggle and that honest connection that I think a lot of other business owners probably have with you. Because when we are open about those sort of things, then we can learn from each other. We can share and we can grow. And so, thank you for sharing that perspective. And if you have insights, if you have done this before, feel free to message Sarah. I'm sure she'd love to collaborate with you. And she's fantastic to connect with online. So, and in person, although we've never met in person. So definitely, if you have ideas of how to support her in those growth opportunities, definitely reach out. That would be great. So this has been a really weird year, a really isolating year. How are you finding community? How are you finding connection? Who's inspiring you?
Oh, who's inspiring you? That's a tough one. I have a whole list of people that inspire me. Notable Nomadic Kitchen, Cafe Mama Juana. These two ladies I've known for a very long time, and they're huge supports of mine. I told Maria from Cafe Mama that I wanted to serve coffee at my pop-up, and she gave me $100 of compostable coffee cups.
Oh,
and
wow.
like, here you go. Alex messages me and just gives me a little extra support. I try not to bother her because she's so crazy busy. But I'll reach out and be like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing with this right now. Can you please help me? And she will. So these ladies I've watched both of them. I knew them before their business started. So I've watched both of them grow from an idea to being able to support themselves. And that's something that I obviously want to do and want to be able to inspire others to do as well. Some other inspirations are such a weird time. ways to stay connected with the community are I've been doing these pop-ups, which is something that I've never really done before, but my first one was at Battery Street Jeans, and they had a little Halloween horror market. And I was like, oh, okay, like I could fit into that. I'm witchy, and that's
on brand.
Yeah, exactly, on brand. And I got there and I was like aggressively the first one there, right? I was like, okay, I have my table, I'm here. I got the best spot right in front of the door. Like, everybody get out of my way. I'm here to do work. And so I was the first one there. Everybody was late. Everybody else was late. And I was like, okay. Like, so judgmental. It was terrible. And then someone set up their table like right next to mine and like cut off all of my signage. And so at this point, I'm like, wow, okay, rude.
Fuming.
But by the end of the day, like these people are all amazing supports for me. They message me, they like my stuff. They always show up to my pop-ups. They support me in every possible way that they can. And it's amazing it totally changed my view of my opinion on competitive nature in regards to other businesses. And I've really been able to make some great friends through that.
That's great. You had
Um,
commented earlier about, I think the phrase you said was "lift as we rise," and I
yes.
just love that. I love that analogy, and it sounds like you've had that experience with other people in the community, with Cafe Mama Juana and um, Nomadic Kitchens. So how? And I understand you're also doing that with some folks who are just starting their business now. Do you want to talk more about that?
Yeah. So the Mad Spaniard they opened right around the same time that I did. Totally different brand. They're making multicolored cookies and all different types of things. Um, but I know Angel through, he's like a food industry regular, like he's a Burlington person. People know him through that. But he doesn't have a ton of experience with kind of those finer baking details that I learned in culinary school. So I try to support him in any way that I possibly can, and he does the same for me. We plan a ton of pop-ups together and try to rise each other up in whatever way we can. Also, pretty much anyone that messages me that's a business and asks for help or support or anything in that regard, I'm happy to. I love helping with websites. That's something that I'm really passionate about. I love my website. I spent so much crazy time on it, and I find excuses to put more and more time into it. And I've been able to, during the Christmas season, actually, I'm gonna have 2 or so weeks off. So I'm going to help some other businesses with building their websites and kind of getting them set up in a way that's scalable and that they can kind of adjust the fine details, but getting the groundwork in.
That's great. I hope you can get some rest in there too. It sounds like you've had a really busy season, and it doesn't sound exactly like vacation, but I know you're hardworking. So if that counts for
I'm happy
rest
to lay
time.
in bed and drink Mountain Dew and eat Doritos and play on the computer all day.
That's real. There you go.
That's my center. Don't let the look fool you. I'm nerd deep down out in heart.
So you're helping so many people to connect with what inspires them and make it real. You've started this just this year. What are your hopes for your business, and where do you want to see it go?
So short term, my big goal is I'm going to be renting a kitchen soon. I finally got the okay on that, so that's huge for me. That means I can start doing wholesale. Right now, I'm kind of in like this weird loophole exemption thing with the health department where I can produce, but I can't really sell to certain people, and I can't do this and that. So once I get the check mark on my caterer's license, I'm going to be able to go up to Healthy Living and City Market and say, hey, I'm selling this, and I can be at more markets. And that's the first big step for me.
That's huge.
I'm really excited about it because I will have my own kitchen space that's not in my house. I love being home, but there's something to be said about getting up, getting dressed, and going to work, you know? And that's like one of the biggest challenges for me with COVID is finding that motivation, even though I'm like lounging around the house all day, is how do I get myself to get up, put my makeup on, look like a person, and get to work, you know?
Well, I think you're not alone in that challenge this year. I think pretty much anyone who's not an essential worker is connecting from home. So I think that a lot of people um, find resonance in that that challenge as well.
it's a it's a tough challenge, and also I'm excited for my home to be my home again,
Mm.
which is also a challenge.
Yeah, it can be hard to have those to create a boundary between work and home. Is that a challenge for you? How do you handle it?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I'm working, I feel like I'm supposed to be home and relaxing. And when I'm relaxing, I think that I'm supposed to be working. So it's incredibly difficult to create that boundary. Something that I've really been working on is a routine. I work from this time to this time. This is exactly when I work every day. It doesn't, right now that time is in the middle of the night because that seems to be when I feel most like prepared for work because everyone else in the house is sleeping and I can just get to work.
Yep.
But I've been trying to do it more during the day lately because switching my routine in the busiest time of the year makes sense, right? But I think routine is really important. I think that getting out of the house just for 5 minutes to go for a walk around the corner or grab a coffee is really important, because that kind of sets your mind and okay, we're moving on to the next thing. We're separating being home and now we're going to work.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's so true. And I think again, I think that a lot of people have that same challenge and so you're smart to create those sense of structure for yourself and get outside, and connect to the fresh air and hopefully see people, from the nose up
Yeah.
as you walk down the street and say hi.
Yeah.
um, what impact do you hope to have through your baking? You've touched on this a little bit in the community efforts that you've had. You've touched on it in the way that you're mentoring others. Do you have a bigger picture or goal for what you hope to have as a legacy as a baker?
I'm hoping long term to be able to do more fundraising in a way that is impactful.
Mm.
I think right now I'm, doing some little fundraisers and they're cute and they make, $100 and that's nice, but they're not majorly impactful. I think the more that I could raise and the more exposure that I could get could ultimately really make a difference for some people.
Mm.
I'm very tuned in to the food industry and new businesses starting up, and I would like to see them all thrive and succeed and find a way that I can support them in doing that.
Mm.
I also really want to hone in my my specialty baked goods. So gluten-free, vegan, nut-free. These are all things that can be really difficult to find in a way that's special. I don't know if special is the right word, but you walk into a bakery and you see this beautiful case and it's wow. Oh, I can't have anything in that case. I want to be able to offer that to the community and be able to be a part of that.
Yeah, I think accessibility is so needed, and it helps people to feel seen and recognized in the community. So, beyond just beyond the incredible impact that you have in baking and contributing in financial ways, baking in a way that helps people to feel connected in their community and see that they have a place. I think that in itself is really powerful. So I'm glad that you're doing that work. Thank you.
I think Gen Z is definitely the future of our country, obviously, and they've spoken. They want vegan, they want gluten-free, they want community involvement, and I want to give it to them.
That's great. That's great. Oh, so we do have some questions that have popped up.
Okay.
Let's see. We've covered some of them. Oh, if you could learn from any other baker, who would it be and why?
Ooh. I love Christina Tosi. She runs Milk Bar, Momofuku. She has come up with a very unique style. It's American baking. Usually when you think about baking, it's French or Italian, or this is American baking. We're using cereal and candy, and I think that she really found her niche. And so and she's just so fun and bubbly. I would love to learn from her and work with her.
That's great. Do you sell savory bakery items?
Ooh, not yet. So I've been thinking a lot about this. I really want to do something with sage because obviously.
We need a cleanse for this year for
Right?
sure.
Yeah. So I really want to do something with sage. I've been thinking about doing some savory cookies. And because I used to make these really awesome scones, and I would like to transfer that flavor profile into a cookie. So I would say stay tuned with that. I have a lot of changes coming up that I'm really excited about.
Any secrets you can release here, or how should we
Yeah.
stay tuned?
So I am going to close my store between Christmas and New Year's. After that point, which is like terrifying, right? Like I'm closing the store. But I'm going to take that time and test all new recipes, order all new items. I want to really refine my gift section. And after that point, I will reopen with a whole new menu.
Ooh, so we should check
like,
in early in the new year to see what's cooking.
Yes, absolutely. I'll definitely have all of the favorites. Like, I think Marilyn would kill me if I told her that I was taking the wildflower shortbread off the menu. Or the matcha moons. People are crazy about the matcha moons. So I'll keep the crowd favorites, but
okay. But surprises to come. That's exciting. Okay, you have our attention. Another question. Listening to you, you look towards helping. What superhero would you choose to be?
Ooh, Iron Man.
Okay. I see you with a shield.
I feel like Iron Man it could happen. Like someone could be rich enough to be Iron Man. There are people that are rich enough to be Iron Man. I think it's a possible superhero. I don't think a lot of other superheroes could happen.
Okay. Well, that's a great answer.
But I think that Iron Man's cool. I mean, yeah.
Let's do it.
It's my favorite.
And has there been a silver lining for you? There's been so much hardship and challenge. You've been inspired to start a new business. What, if any, has there been a silver lining for you?
Oh, yes. I had a break. I'll be honest. I had been burnt out for years before COVID. I was working crazy. Like I said earlier, chefs usually work 60 plus hours a week. And that's just how it is. That's the job that you signed up for. I was able to take a break. I was able to check in with myself in a calm way and not a burnt out way. And really start to establish why do I get overwhelmed sometimes? Like I can see it now. I can check in with myself and say, hey, are you overwhelmed because something's actually happening or something triggering that for you? Or so it's definitely helped a lot with my mental health. For sure. I am able to participate in my personal life, which is amazing. I mean, granted, in the holiday season, it's not so much that way, but generally speaking, I've definitely been able to spend more time with my fiance. That side note, my cat, anyone who knows me closely knows that my cat Milton is like a crazy vicious beast, who has always hated me. And since COVID started, he loves me. I mean, he's sitting right next to me right now because we spent more time together, and he's like, I'm not just the lady who comes in and out of the door, for 8 hours every night just to sleep. I'm like, I'm a part of his life and a part of his family. And so that was pretty impactful too, is to see what a difference me being home made.
Absolutely. And it sounds like for you, and also, your family and pets included. I think pets are the secret winners of the pandemic. I don't know if anyone else agrees, but I think they've definitely enjoyed having some extra company at home.
Yeah.
Well, Sarah, here's another one. Do you think NECI was a good fit for you, New England Culinary Institute? Could you have done this without the schooling?
Yes, I could have done it without the schooling, for sure. But I will say that NECI nowadays doesn't have the greatest reputation, right? They just closed and et cetera, et cetera. I think when I graduated, it was like right after that I kind of started to go. But I networked a lot there. That's where I met Alex from Nomadic Kitchen. We had classes together. I networked a lot there. I learned all the basics. I learned a lot about work there. Their model was something that a lot of other culinary schools aren't. So when you think about college, you think about sitting in a classroom. I didn't sit in a classroom. I think I had maybe like 2 or 3 classes a week where I actually like sat in a classroom. Otherwise I was working, and they worked us. They made us like work overnight. They made us work early in the morning, and like they showed us what it was like to work in the industry. It wasn't, they didn't sugarcoat it. And I think that was an important experience for me to know what I was getting into, because when I started, I thought it was all cupcakes and rainbows. I didn't understand the responsibility that came with being a chef. I think I also learned a lot of discipline. I mean, I have green hair still, so I'm still kind of a rebel. But every day we had to come into class, and they would check, did you iron your jacket? Did you iron your pants? Did you shine your shoes? They would check your mouth and make sure that you didn't receive any piercings since the last time they saw you. Make sure you brush your teeth, check your fingernails, make sure they're cut and clean. So there was definitely a lot of discipline that was learned there about what you need to be professional.
It sounds like an incredible challenge and opportunity and teaching lesson for you, that it sounds like you're also continuing in the way that I understand you're taking classes still, and
Yes.
outside of that program, continuing your education, and then also mentoring other people. So taking what you've learned and sharing that with others who are starting their business. If you had advice for people who are thinking about starting a business right now, what would you say?
Make sure you know yourself really well. Make sure you trust yourself, and the decisions that you make, and always back yourself up, even if you make the wrong decision. That's something that I have trouble with, but it's something that I have to remember, because I think it's the most important part of being a solo business owner. Be ready to learn really freaking quickly. I've learned a lot, and it's it hasn't been easy, honestly, to learn all of those things really quickly, making mistakes and fixing them and all of these types of things. But you really have to be dedicated to what you're doing. I think that this might be sort of negative, but when you think about looking at on Instagram or what have you, it's like glamorous to start a business. Oh, my business is so wonderful to work in. It's not always like that. You know, I mean, it is sometimes. Like it's cool to walk down the street and people recognize me, and people I don't know are placing orders, and they're coming into Mom Juana and peeking their head back and saying, "Oh my God, I love your stuff," and all of these types of things. But you know, there's definitely some hard days, and it's not something to be overlooked when you think about starting a business. You are going to have hard days, and it's going to be really freaking hard sometimes.
Yeah.
But if you're dedicated to what you're doing and you feel passionately about what you're doing, there's no reason why you won't succeed.
Mm. Well, I am so excited to have you here for this Pivot and Thrive interview, Sarah. Thank you so much for sharing your experience and insights with us. You're doing incredible work in the community and helping other people to see their ideas into reality, and and thanking those people who have helped you along the way. So thank you for sharing with us in this hour. And if you haven't already followed Sarah at Black Rose Briar, please do so. Her work is beautiful, and you can attend her pop-up on December 23rd and taste her goods in person from a safe distance, of course. You know what to do. And stay tuned if you're interested. We have another interview tomorrow with ABD Culture, Alex Klein, who designs eco jewelry out of inner tubes from bicycles so that they are ready for the outdoors environmental enthusiast. So we'll be excited to hear from her. And if you're interested in collaborating, we have so many more events coming up, and we're starting an online community early in the new year for entrepreneurs who are interested in sharing what they have. They know what their experience is so that we can accelerate the pace of small business success in Vermont. So everybody who joins helps to make that community stronger and helps people to grow and to succeed as business owners. So I hope you'll entertain the idea, check it out. We're going to have a launch week in the first week of January. And so I'm really excited to see what people will share and how we're able to connect and collaborate to grow the small business community in Vermont. So thank you so much for joining us today. It is a pleasure, an honor, and a privilege to have you with us, Sarah. And thank you all for joining and supporting Sarah Howley of Black Rose Briar.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Take care.